Now, this video, I'm going to tell you, make sure you join our Discord. It's going to be down in the description box below. This gentleman mentions that he is from Houston, Texas. And because there's a lot, I don't know how to say it, but some of no offense, but some of the way that some of the words, some of the sentences, I don't quite understand, but it's okay. So I'm just gonna try to skip through and skim through certain parts and hit certain points, right? But this is a legitimate thing, and I got this on Facebook, so I know the person's legitimate. But it was a pretty long message, basically saying that he is 23 years old from Houston. He had childhood friends, many of which that he still keeps in contact with. But in particular, there's two people that he's referring to. One is a female, one's a male, right? In high school, him and this female kind of dated, kind of didn't. It was kind of like, on and off, on and off. She was dating other people too, which everybody kind of does that in high school. The other guy in this situation was a real close friend of his. And he kind of dated this chick on and off in high school as well, right? He goes on to mention that in high school, she was kind of someone who was just loud, obnoxious, rude, but also funny, kind, and cool at the same time. And I get what you're trying to say. He talks about how she was, to him, attractive, and there was a common appeal. People thought she was very attractive, not necessarily so much in the face, but fairly attractive, right? He said average face. And so I'm trying to be gentle with what I'm saying, because I'm not reading everything. Like, sometimes when I do Ask HershNoeie, I read line for line. I'm not doing that. So I'm trying to decipher what he said and try to project it to you and not sound so mean or cruel or disrespectful, right? To him or to the people that he's referring to, right? That's not my intention. So anyhow, he goes on to say that essentially, when she was 18, she had a child, and he doesn't know who the father is. He said at that time they were not even together. And he had other friends that he was talking to. He was still talking to one of the guy in this case. He was talking to him, and so they got out of school, and it's been like 5 years at that point. He said that a few years back he linked up with her and wanted to date her, that type of thing. And he said it didn't seem like there was much of a commitment from her part. Like, she wasn't really trying to be a part of the relationship. He said that she seemed kind of shallow. She told him, "What are you going to do for me? Man up." He says he's been working at fast food. He mentions the place. And she's like, I want someone that has a real job, and all of this, right? She's not with the father of the child. He doesn't know who the father of the child is, but she's not with him. He doesn't plan on. I'm not going to discuss that part, so I'll leave that part out. So he goes on to say that the guy that he is referring to, remember I said there's three people: the person that wrote me, the girl, and this other guy, recently got into a argument, because he said recently he started to see this girl again, and she's been saying, you're lame, you don't really have a job. He said, we've been romantic together, all of this. And his friend, who he said he hadn't been close to in the last couple of years, knocked on his door one day and said, you mess with my chick. And he said it was a big argument. He said we were up in each other's faces. It came close to fighting, etc., etc. And he said that, now this person drives by his house and, it slows down, looks, gas, revs his engine, that type of thing. He said, I feel like something's about to happen pretty soon, and I am, to be honest with you, a little bit scared and concerned. What should I do in a circumstance? I know that you had before written about what young black men should do. All of these individuals involved are black. What should I do? He goes on to say that he doesn't really have much here in Houston. His sister lives on the East Coast. His mother has passed away. And he doesn't mention anything about father. He says he has really hardly any family there. He has extended family, but no immediate family there. He says that he is even open to leaving and moving someplace, not because of this particular person, but just he wants a change of scenery. But he said, given the sickness, I don't know. He doesn't say sickness, but given the sickness, he doesn't know what to do. So here's my take on it. He goes on and on and on and on, right? If I were you, I would run. I wouldn't. To me, this person, the female that you're talking about, and I don't mean any disrespect, and I'm trying to be as nice as, I'm trying to say this as nice as I can. That person's not worth your time. Now, he goes on to mention, by the way, that he has no children at all. He says he doesn't even want kids. I do remember that. The other guy, I believe, has kids. So he's the only one in this circumstance that doesn't have any kids. He doesn't really have close family there where he lives. It's just him. He's just there. And both of them are messing with the same chick. And his friend from the past might end up trying to do something to him because of this chick, and he doesn't know what to do. Here's what I would do. I wouldn't have any sort of conversation with the chick at all. I wouldn't be involved with, to me, that just her personality alone is not something that I go for anyway. It's just not, no, that's not me. That alone would have already disqualified her in my universe. But here's what I would do. First, I would, if you know the dude's number or what have you, or even send a Facebook message. Because some people will say, man, don't be such a wimp. Don't be such a wuss, or whatever the case may be. But that's okay. Be a wimp. Be a wuss. I will. If somebody was doing that to me, yeah, I would be whatever you want to call me, so that I wouldn't have to deal with some sort of confrontation. Please. Please. I always believe no one is worth your freedom. Your freedom to live, your freedom to just walk around society. No one's worth that. So especially someone like this chick. So I would communicate with this person that, you know what? You won. My apologies, you won. And, to be honest with you, I wasn't really sure what the circumstance was. Now I do. And that was my fault. So, basically fall on that sword on your own and say, you know what, my fault, my bad. And I wish you guys the best. I really do. Let him know early on that, hey, no hard feelings on your part. You hope he forgives you. And you hope that he moves on. And you'll step aside. Let him handle and deal with that mess. Because if you continue down this path, a lot of times there's always problems that come. And she's not worth that. You get what I'm saying? Based on what you're saying. I don't know any of these people personally, but based on what you're saying. So what I would do is vote with my feet. And I always say that, vote with your feet, because again, Houston's a big city. It's a pretty big city, but the way you're speaking is you were born and raised and lived all in the same general spot. And that makes a very tiny world. And in that tiny world, a lot of chaos can happen that you're not intending to happen. And there's often times when people who look like you and I may be innocent of something, and then some idiot comes along and creates a problem. And then you're the one that ends up either in a bad circumstance. It's not either, you're just in a bad circumstance. So to me, it's definitely not worth it at all. If I were you, you had mentioned that you have a little bit of cash and you had been thinking about moving before. What I would do, and he had mentioned in there that his car is already starting to crap out, and he was thinking about fixing it. I wouldn't even do that. I would do what I did when I got divorced. I left everything. I left everything. I'm like, you can have all of that. Like, all I need is my clothes. Like, you can, like, everything. You can just, that's yours. You can have it. I didn't want there to be any type of nothing. Because if it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm going to take my clippers and this clippers you got together, and then it's like, well, you took the best clippers I had because they have this little part on it, and I like that part versus this part, and I like that. Anytime there's a chance for someone to figure out a way to talk to you, especially an ex, I try to cut all that out and say, look, you have all of it. If there's something I really and truly need, either I'll do without or I'll eventually find it or buy it or whatever I need to do, but I don't want to have anything to do with the person. So you can just have everything. Therefore, there's no argument. You just take it all. If I were you, I'd leave the car. I'd sell the car, go to Cars, what is it, CarMax? I don't know. I would sell that car and I would basically leave. I would leave and start over, to be honest with you. And you'd be surprised how much better it will be. Not saying it won't be difficult. A lot of times it is hard moving someplace. But if I were you and you work in the fast food industry, there's fast food places everywhere. Everywhere. So if I were you, I would sell my car, sell all the stuff you have except for the clothes that you have, and I would basically either get on a bus, get on a plane, or whatever, and I would leave. I would leave all that stuff behind. And this may sound, and some people say, oh, that's just a chicken move. Well, I'll be that. But I'll also be alive too. I would change my phone number. I would block him and her from any social medias that you have. Any friends that are mutual that are trying to instigate, block those people. Yep. Now, I didn't have any issues when I got divorced. There was nothing like what you're going through. But I wanted to make sure that there was no communication, there was no nothing. And any sort of mutual friends that we had, it just naturally just departed. It was easy. But in certain circumstances, folks don't have it like that. Especially whenever you're dealing with, since high school. So, and you're young also. So what I would do is, instead of getting bogged down in all of that mess, is to get rid of the car, sell it. I mean, obviously put in a 2-week notice to your job. Make amends with this dude, tell him, your fault. Tell him that, actually, to be honest with you, I've been thinking about moving anyway. So I'm moving out of state, so move out of state. Don't tell them where you're going. Start all over. Don't even put on social media what state, what city you're in. Just leave it that you're in Houston. Move on. and find somebody else. You can come up here to the Pacific Northwest. There's a whole lot of women up here that you can choose from, or you can go anywhere. There's a lot of other fish in the sea, by far. And to be honest with you, I've had someone else ask me, I want to move from here. I can't afford to live up there where you live. Where would be a good option? And they're out out west here too. They're out west. And I said, go someplace that's going to challenge you, that's something different that you've never been to, that you think is going to be, adventurous. Do that. It can help you learn. You know what I mean? It can help you learn. I don't know enough about a lot of places, out here that's going to be affordable, because once you pass the mountain states, it gets expensive. You know what I mean? Like, everything's expensive. Move to Salt Lake City. I don't know. That might be an option. Colorado, Denver. But it's kind of pricey there. Denver. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Start over. Be around different people. Completely different people. And start over. You have nothing holding you back there. So if I were you, I would move someplace where no one knows you. You can start all over again and live your life. You're still young. I would still also tell you get your passport, so when things clear up, you can bounce and go all over the place. There's so many options. There's so many things for you to do. So many places to visit, check out. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many places. But in the meantime, I would pack my stuff up, bubble wrap whatever you need to bubble wrap, stick it in a suitcase or two in a backpack, and I would either take Greyhound, Amtrak, whatever you need to take, or a plane, and I would go someplace. I wouldn't go someplace where you're going to be dealing with the same stuff. I would go the complete opposite direction. I'm just saying. If you like the South still, I would go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's a good, safe option. Or it's tricky. It's tricky. Because, and I say that because you said that you mention and talk about the community you grew up in, and that's all you've ever seen. The problem is people sometimes repeat behavior. They repeat what they know. They go to what they know. And if you go to a big city, you're going to go to what you know and what you're used to. And that's why I suggest you go the opposite direction, because then that doesn't exist. And so you're faced with a lot of things that are so completely different, so completely opposite. Like, this is a whole new experience. You had mentioned you're a quiet individual. You had mentioned in this too, like, school is not an option. Like, this gentleman doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to go to do any of that, and I understand. He just wants to be able to, work a job. He mentions that he works long hours. He wants to work a job, be able to, thrive. He doesn't want to have kids. Marriage could be an option. He said one day it's just not something on his radar. But if I were you, Indianapolis is a good example. That's a good one. Live on the north side, around 84th Street, that area. That would be a good one. That would be a good one. I would have a bubble in the Castleton area of Indianapolis. That was the bubble I created too. That would be the bubble I would be in. Fishers, Castleton, a little bit of Carmel, Indiana. That would be actually a pretty good, safe spot. Not saying you can't get into issues there, but that would be where I would just plant my flag and stay in that general area. You mentioned you're a homebody. That's good. I wouldn't go into, there's certain parts of Indianapolis where there's problems. I would avoid it. I'm not going to mention those because I don't want to, disparage anyone, but I would avoid it. I really and truly would. I would avoid it. And I would literally just keep my focus in that general area. It's going to be a little bit of culture shock for you, but that's actually a good thing. I would stay in something like that versus not. If you're talking about coming to Tacoma, Tacoma's a good option. It's expensive. It's expensive. Could you do it? Yeah, you could. You could. It's expensive. I would say if you move to a place like this and you're wanting to make it here and you're on a minimum wage job, you need to make some really fast moves because the price here is so expensive. Here would be also probably another good bet, a really solid good bet. Anywhere in the Pacific Northwest would be a good bet. Not Pacific Northwest. I take that back. The Puget Sound would be a good bet. I can't speak for the other places. But here would be a really good bet. And I would literally do opposite of everything else that you've dealt with. And just put yourself in a position where you can just thrive. And I wouldn't worry about the rest of this. Because if you continue to, if this person keeps going by, and it's kind of pointless. Because some people would say, contact the police or whatnot. Sure, if you feel like you're in imminent danger. But what I would do is literally just tell the person, hey, I'm actually bouncing. I'm leaving. I would look into places here or the places I mentioned. Could you make it here? Yeah, I think minimum wage here is like, I don't know, $14 or something. I don't know. But you could make it here. You can get you a studio apartment. You can go to Cause Development. I mention them often because their apartments are super cheap. They're super modern. They're brand new. That's an option. There is, I forget what it's called. There's a new apartment development that is downtown. The Tacoma Flats. If they have anything available, that's another option. There's a lot of options here. If you're making minimum wage and you're wanting to live in Tacoma, a lot of options. Also, not that I'm out here like looking, but some of the prettiest women in the world, not in the world, I take that back. Some of the prettiest people in the country live here in this area. You shouldn't have a problem finding someone, to be honest with you. Shouldn't have a problem. So that's what I would do. And as a matter of fact, the places I mentioned where you could live in Tacoma, there are plenty of fast food places that you can go and get a job at. And you don't even need a car. And we have Amtrak. So your Amtrak can take you here. You get off the train. You literally you can walk up to these places. I would go online and apply to these places that I mentioned as far as living. Apply for jobs. See if your boss can transfer you, because that's probably a much easier. The place you work at, there's one right here. There's one here in downtown. So that's what I would do. But I wouldn't stay in Houston, and I wouldn't stay in that situation. I would literally leave and, move away from that. That would be the safest, smartest thing to do. Then after that, focus on passport, focus on, if you want to stay here permanently, focus on trying to get a house. It may not seem as impossible as you think. May not be the biggest house, but if you're not wanting to have kids, you can find something that's going to suit you. Anyhow, hope I answered your question. If you have any more questions, let me know. Anything I can help you with, as long as it's not money, I'll help you with. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.